All right, showtime. Okay, so welcome to everyone who is coming in, who is a guest. On behalf of Skill Distillery, we say thank you so much for joining us for what we believe are going to be monumental final projects. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing SD34 and their final project presentations. They are days away from successfully completing this 16-week haul that they have been in. And so today is a day of hard work that is now brought to fruition. And so we are definitely so very proud of you and all of the work that you have done for the last 16 weeks and leading you up until this final pivotal milestone. And so without further ado, we are going to dive right in. And so we ask that any guests that are coming in, please keep yourself muted until the end of the presentation. We will have a period of question and answers that the audience will be able to ask the team, and then they will be able to respond. And so until they finish their presentation, please keep yourself muted. But yeah, first up, I want to make sure I'm getting this name right, is Glitter Velvet. You have the floor.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
All right, want to make sure everybody can see my screen. Are we looking here?
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. Ryan, if you want to take it away.
Absolutely, thank you. So thanks for coming, everybody. So our idea was Toon Throwback. Tiara was the repo owner. Samantha was the Scrum Master, and I was the DBA of this. Please go to the next slide, Tiara. So the idea was to create a site where people could view and make nostalgic 90s cartoons uploads. And to be able to view and upload episodes, merchandise, and trivia. Sorry, my son's here. And if you could please go to the wireframe, TR.
We are.
So as you can see here, this was the general idea that we had when we started the project. So see a user profile page where the cartoon would be displayed, the idea for viewing the media and playing it, and to make like a trivia quiz, all the general outlines of what we wanted to make. All right, if you could please go back to the PowerPoint. Thank you. And to the next page. So this was the ER diagram that I made, and excuse me. So a big part of this was the relationships. We each had our eyes on our own separate pieces of the code, and it really only came together when we were able to all communicate properly and create it. And the one of the problems that I found when I was focusing on it by myself was I thought ideas like comments and merchandise would only be created via cartoon. And then when I was able to talk to Samantha and Tiara, they had showed that the user actually needs to be able to create through there. Excuse me. So I had to add in the one-to-many relationship that you can see there into comment. The fact and the hopeful, or kind of hopeful, or excuse me, the fact and the favorite were hopeful wishes that we tried to implement, but we just didn't get around to it with the scope of the project. And if you could please go to the next page. And I will go ahead and hand it off to Samantha.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Great, welcome to Toon Throwback, where us millennials can reminisce on the days of old. Here we are starting at our homepage. This website is designed like it's from the 90s, super bright and fun with simple animations throughout it. And from here, we can either create an account or log into an existing one. We are going to use our user login to show all the functions of an admin along with a user. And once we are logged in, we can head over to our account page. And as you can see, we have Paul Jones as admin. And it looks like Paul Jones has been very busy. Each of these columns correspond with the user's additions to the website, We can scroll through merch. They have linked with an update and delete function for each one, along with all media they have added for other users to watch and their favorite cartoons. Underneath that, we can see this table where it shows all comments that Mr. Jones has made throughout the website. And then from here, we are going to click on our search button so that we can see all the cartoons listed on the website. Each cartoon you see is uploaded from different users. We can add a cartoon via the big old cartoon button in the corner with these fancy pop-out modals that were implemented throughout the website. But we are going to skip adding a cartoon and open one of our favorites, Hey Arnold. This is the cartoon's profile page where all info linked to this specific cartoon lives. Here we can add merch, media, and even comment with other users about our mutual love of the show. And Tiara, if you will, I believe we need to add football head is awesome. Add as a comment, and after that, we can see underneath the comments, there are slides that you can scroll and see the specific merch and media added. Back to the top, there are update and delete cartoon buttons that are showing because we are logged in as an admin. So we can update and delete. From here, we are going to touch on the merch page where all merch from every user on the site lives. Either you can upload your own, like an Etsy store, or you can link out your favorite items for other users to peruse. The media button directs you to a page that you can also skim through different episodes, clips, and trailers that other users have posted. The trivia button will take you to a little trivia page that users can read, answer, and then reveal the answer to see if they really are a 90s cartoon aficionado. And then at the top, we can also log out and have viewing permissions throughout the site still. And that is our short demo of Toon Throwback. And from here, I will hand over to Tiara to speak on our organization and code.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about how we stayed organized with a project with this many moving parts and 3 people working on it. So number 1, lots and lots of sticky notes. Discord notes at the end of the day were also key because Ryan is in Japan and Samantha and I are over here in Colorado. So he would be up much earlier than us working on things. So leaving each other notes was always key. And then the real glue to this was our Trello board. So I will show you that for a moment. We finished a good chunk of what we wanted to do. So most of it is in the complete drop down, but if we look over here at stretch goals, there were a few things we didn't get to implement. Samantha actually built a Tetris game that we just didn't have a chance to put on the website because we ran out of time. We would have loved to score the trivia somehow, and I thought it would have been really cool to implement the forgot password function into the login pop-up. One of the key things we really regret not being able to get around to was adding a favorites function for users to have their favorites cartoons on their account page, and just a fun fact banner implementation. So that is how we stayed organized. I'm going to take you over to some of the code. So to start, I mean, this block of code here made all the difference. So one of the biggest functions of our website is the CRUD functionality. We have logins, updates, and deletes for so many different components that like CRUD is just it's everything. We had to poke holes in our security config. And this was something that we kind of learned on the fly. We got teachings on it, but you really don't understand it until you get hands-on. And so this was key, learning how to poke holes in our authorizations when people aren't logged in made a world of difference, because we wanted people to be able to see the cartoons, see the media, see the trivia without actually having to log in to the website as a user. Another huge thing was routing. You know, we have routes on the controllers and we have routes on the front end, and being able to make those talk properly. And then once you click on something, routing you to the right page afterwards and all the things, just made a world of difference. And that was a big learning curve for, I think, all three of us on this project. Moving on to some of the funner stuff. Again, I mentioned the pop-ups. So here's some of the code for the modals, the button for login, and then the actual modal itself was really fun to implement, to the point where it was so fun that we just kind of implemented it everywhere. We have pop-ups for like every button on our page. And I joked at the beginning that I wouldn't do that, but I totally did. And then also, I don't know if you guys noticed the carousel on the individual cartoon pages. That was really fun to implement. And that's this block of code right here. We wanted to be able to show the merch and the media for a particular cartoon without overly extending the page. So being able to put that in a carousel was really, really helpful. And we were able to scroll the text inside of the cards to maintain the size of the cards and make them consistent. So that was really nice too. Samantha played a huge part in styling the website. So I'm going to go ahead and hand that off to her to talk about some of the styling.
Thanks, Tiara. So styling our website was a little daunting to begin with because our extent of CSS has been pretty minute. But Tiara had this really big vision of bright and fun with this very fun, busy background. And to bring her vision to life, learning how to troubleshoot styling through the dev tools was a big eye opener. Shout out to Rob, because he showed that, and it was a really big aha moment for me. And that made our project come together a lot faster. So as you can see on the dev tools on the right here, this photo, we can implement our CSS and see it change in real time. And if it looked the way we wanted it to, we could just add that code to our CSS and roll with it. But with that, we all really enjoyed pulling together, working the long hours, and just plain having fun with our memories of these cartoons in our childhood, all while coding together. So that was pretty fun. That is our project of Toon Throwback. And if you have any questions, we would love to answer them.
I can break the ice here. Hello, I'm Eric. I was in SD28. Nice work to you all. I think the ER diagram is pretty cool, pretty complicated. I think I saw a self-join in there. I also appreciated the security configuration, because I know we kept it pretty basic when I was doing this. And I like the front end. I think there could have been more pink. Anyway, inside joke. SD28 would understand. But my question is kind of a couple questions. I saw some animations of different elements, and I wanted to know how you implemented that, if you were using just like raw CSS or otherwise how. And then I think I could see Bootstrap in there. So I wanted to know if you were using Bootstrap, if you had any challenges with that, and particularly trying to implement your custom styles along with Bootstrap.
Yeah, definitely. I'll touch on the CSS. The animations were pure CSS. It was all using keyframes and animation names and timers and such. So it was actually pretty easy to implement once you get the hang of it and understanding how the CSS is talking with the keyframes. But yeah, that's all we used was CSS for it. And then I'll hand the Bootstrap over to Tiara. She did a lot of reading up on it.
Yeah. So with the modals at first, I actually tried to implement them via just like standard Bootstrap. And I actually had to, swing back around and redo it with NG Bootstrap because I couldn't get the right dependencies put into the front end to get the just regular standard Bootstrap modals working. And so I really didn't understand the difference between the two to begin with. And this project really opened my eyes on that, because NG Bootstrap just does a lot more, I feel like. So I was not the one that customized any of the cards and modals though. That was Samantha's styling.
to go back into
Well, yeah, I think the
after it's released.
grappling with different versions and dependencies kind of will continue in your life. But I think it was cool that you all got into using keyframes and stuff for CSS. So kudos on kind of, it looks like you branched out into some stuff that you weren't necessarily taught at Skill Distillery, but just kind of looked up and figured out. So that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun for sure.
Are there any other questions that we can ask this dynamic group? Speak now or forever hold your
I have
peace.
a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
Paul. I'm with DSoft Technologies. And one of the things I noticed was your database diagram had 11 tables, and that's impressive. And the question is, what was the hardest relationship between tables and why? And could you describe that?
So I would say the hardest part was actually what I kind of touched on, and it was how it was a many to one between the like a one cartoon could hold many comments, and then a user could create many comments on that cartoon. I had a difficult time trying to understand why the user needed to go into that. But it was all about how it was going to be routed with the website and how it would be, I guess the functionality of the website was going to be. So to create it, it would be through the user account going into the cartoon page, and then creating the cartoon through that. It seemed to be all about the routing, like how they were touching on the security config. And to be able to go through that, I would say that was probably the hardest. And yeah, the 11 tables was fun.
To add on to that, I think one of the hardest relationship links in the database was the self-linked comments. So we had a comments table, we had parent comments, and then we had like reply comments. And we were completely at a loss at first on how to even get those to work. Completely lost. And so figuring that out was, I would say for me, the most eye-opening moment when it came to database like table relationship communication and stuff like that. Because I was just like, how are we going to make this work?
Thanks. Fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Awesome job. Awesome job. Next up is Zephyr Firefly.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We are Zephyr Firefly, and this is Squad Goals.
Hello, I'm Ryan. I was a Scrum leader for this project.
Hi, I'm Joe. I was the database administrator.
And I'm Wyatt. I was the GitHub repo owner. Before we take you to the website, I just want to give you an overview of what Squad Goals is. It is a social media platform that you can use to join and create squads with your group, or with a group of your friends or family. And these squads act as a group that you can use to plan activities and events, such as throwing a birthday party or maybe conducting a fitness challenge with your group. And this website helps you communicate with each other and keep on track with accomplishing your goals. So now I'm going to pass it over to Ryan, who will take you on a demonstration of the website.
All right, I'm going to give you a quick tour of our website with the help of Joe. So first off, we're going to log into our normal user, Godzilla. And that brings us to our user console page. On the left, we have all of his information with his profile picture, username, and whatnot, and we can go ahead and edit that. And it says he likes smashing cities, so let's change that to he likes saving cities. Update that, and now it's changed. On the right, we can see all the squads he's currently a member of. So let's check out the users or how many the members are in OGs. In there, we have Original Tom and Godzilla. So Original Tom is the person who created this squad, and that makes him the squad leader. And he's denoted by the golden background or the golden ring around his profile picture there. Let's take a look at Tom's profile. So clicking on his little card there, it'll pop out with his user profile, and you can see his profile picture as well as his name. Let's head back and let's make our own squad. So let's try the OGs first. Oh, and it's not going to let us make that because the OGs is already created. Let's try the junior programmers. And let's make our bio, we write code. And there we go, our new squad has been created. Let's go ahead and add a few members to it. First off, let's add Original Tom. As you can see, our squad now has 2 members. Let's go ahead and now add Fabio. You know what, on second thought, maybe we don't want Fabio in there, so let's go ahead and remove him. By clicking on him, we can bring up his user profile, and he has a remove button, and clicking that removes him. And then, you know what, maybe I don't like the name Junior Programmer so much, so let's go ahead and change it. Let's change this to the Java Programmers. Then finally, I don't like saxophones and soup too much, so let's just go ahead and delete that. Next up, we're going to move to the All Squads page. And on here, this is all the squads currently on our website. So we have a filter at the top, so let's look up the Wolfpack. And in there we can see the Wolfpack. They currently have 3 members in there. Marwa Alvarez is the squad leader, and she's denoted in gold there. So let's go ahead and join. And now we can see that the Wolfpack down at the bottom now has 4 members, one of which is Godzilla. And the join button is no longer there as they're a member of that squad, so you can't join it twice. At the bottom, we can click that little drop down to display, instead of 5 tables at a time, let's try 10. So this displays 10 to 20 squads currently on our site. So let's click that little arrow at the bottom to see the other 20. And those are the rest of the squads on our site. Now let's move on to all the goals Godzilla currently has available to him. So let's check out this goals he currently has under the OGs. So in there, he has 2 goals. Join squad goals, which has already been done. And the second is a pizza party. But you know what? Let's change that to a dance party. And you know what? Let's go ahead and complete that. And since we've completed it, we might as well delete it. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and make a new goal. So let's use the Java programs, the squad we just made. And, let's make a website. Its description will be our final project. And, let's set its completion date to a week from now on the 7th. There you go. It's now in there. That concludes all of the features that a normal user can use. So we're going to log out and head into our admin account. So here's Tom's page. As you can see, the Java Programmers is now shown up now that he's been added to it. We're going to head over to the All Squads page. And one thing I forgot to do before, Joe, if you click members, it'll actually sort by the number of members in those squads. So by least amount of members and most amount of members. So you may notice that, as an admin, he has those 3 dots on the side. As an admin, he can edit or delete any website on here or any squad on our website. So let's go with the black cats up at the top there. And, let's just call them the cats. Save that. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and delete them. All right, now let's move over to my goals. And in there, we can see Java Programmers is there. And the goal we created with Godzilla appears now for him. And finally, let's head over to all goals. So this is a page that is exclusive to admins. It will not appear on the nav bar for anybody who's not on an admin account. And it shows them every single goal we have on our website currently. And the admin has the ability to create or to edit or delete them. So let's go to the Go to Vegas goal. Let's change it to go to LA. Go ahead and save that. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and get rid of it. And that concludes the tour of our website. I'm going to hand it back over to Joe to go over our database schema and our code.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's pull this up. Okay, here we have our entity relationship diagram showing the tables in our database and the relationships between them. Our database included 10 entities and 13 association tables to manage a vast array of relationships and relationship types. Well, these complex relationships enabled the majority of our site's functionality. Managing them to meet foreign key constraints and eliminate recursion cost us a significant amount of time and effort. Needless to say, our Java classes are plastered with JSON ignore tags. And we found during this project that when building a program around a database, it can be easy to conceive of the user interface along the same lines as the database. And this can result in a lot of tabular material. Once we realized this, we endeavored to find a more fun and graphically interesting way to present this information. Here we highlight a few code snippets that we use to give form and color to our data. You saw during Ryan's tour that a user can see a list of all members of a squad by clicking on the member's icon in the squad list. This feature was built primarily using Angular material components. The member's icon displays a badge indicating the number of users in the squad. Clicking on this icon opens a menu showing each member and containing a submenu for adding new members via an autocomplete field that displays a filtered list of users whose usernames contain the text currently being entered. We also added pagination to facilitate browsing and employed custom pipes to hide inactive squads and goals or those not visible to the current user. And now I'm going to pass it off to Wyatt to discuss challenges and lessons learned.
All right, thanks, Joe. So over the course of this project, we faced a number of challenges, but there's a couple I wanted to highlight here. One of them being recursion errors. So Joe touched on this earlier when he showed the ERD. We had a number of recursion errors due to the complex nature of our database, and they were very difficult to deal with. We had tons of JSON ignores and JSON ignore properties all over the place. In addition to that, we had technical difficulties from software to hardware and everything in between that kept us from being able to perform as we wanted to. And at one point, Ryan's project just decided not to boot up. So we thought it was cursed for a little bit there, but we made it through, and we actually learned a number of lessons along the way. One of them being the implications of a complex database schema. The more complex your database is, the more complex your project is going to be, and it can really sneak up on you, and the end result may not be how you expect it. In addition, we learned that pair programming is an amazing tool for troubleshooting. We used it throughout the entire project, basically any chance we got, just to make sure that we had a fresh set of eyes on everything that was happening. And I'm now a firm believer in pair programming. And finally, I just wanted to touch on the power of Angular. Basically, everything that we did on the website, all of the visuals, the tables, everything that you see was through Angular. And it's a very powerful tool for creating an accessible website and just giving user access. So that concludes our presentation, and I leave the floor open for any questions. Thank you.
Hi, this is Andrea Jones from DSoft Technology. I was wondering if you could speak about any features that you wanted to implement but just didn't get to, and what the challenges were that prevented that.
We had plenty. So we had a very complex database. We wanted to add tasks to each goal to kind of like break them down. So, to plan your pizza party, you need to set a date, find out how many people are coming, and, order the pizzas, and they would have check boxes and whatnot, and maybe a, completion bar or something. But we had so many issues. Every time we added, more relations to bring in, it would, break everything else. So we eventually just had to kind of cut it off for sake of actually finishing.
A familiar story to anybody in the development world for sure. But if I could just take a little bit more time and ask you what you sincerely think of Angular, because I've used it and I have a love-hate relationship with it.
That
Andrea,
is,
oh, go ahead.
that's a great way to put it. It's very powerful, but very frustrating.
Yeah, Andrea, I feel the exact same way as you, and I felt the same way about Bootstrap as well. I did some research online to see what are other people saying, and I put a biased search into Google. Why is Bootstrap so bad? Or am I justified in hating it? And everything I could find had people who were new to using it who hated it, and who had been using it for a while who loved it. And it made me think, I need to give it a chance. And then we moved into learning Angular, and I felt the same way. And TypeScript is so confusing to me still, I'll just admit. I'm getting a hang of it, but through this process, I have definitely gained a love-hate relationship for it. And I've gained the sense that I need to stick with it, because on the other side of this steep learning curve just might be a lot of really useful functionality.
Yeah,
Well,
to
I
touch
think
a little bit on that, sorry. It was definitely a lot of finding something that looked cool, a template for something that looked cool, throwing into our code, breaking everything, and then trying to make it work. And eventually we came up with something that we thought looked pretty good.
yeah, that is very familiar. Well, thank you, and you guys did a great job with it.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
I have a question. What advice would you give to a future SD cohort that will be in your shoes in a few weeks?
My biggest advice would probably be don't compare yourself to your classmates. Everybody's going to learn at different rates, so you might get discouraged because that somebody picks things up faster than you. But you're all coming from various backgrounds. Some people might be exposed to some of this, some people might not be. And at the end of the day, you should only really be, comparing yourself to your past self. If you know more at the end of the day than you did at the start, you were successful.
That's really good advice. I would also say that make sure to sleep and take care of yourself. I think there were a number of days where we were going 12, 13 hours, and I feel like I forgot to go outside for I don't even know how long. So just take care of yourself. Yeah, it'll sneak up on you.
I would also promote the idea that there's power in simplicity. We tried to create a really we came up with a very complex idea, and that made the execution of it also very complex. I think had we started simple and then created a really beautiful but simple app, we could have then built on it, added in that complexity.
Any other questions?
My name's Shane. I was from SD26. My question for you guys is, what was the hardest thing you feel like you implemented in your project, and how did you go about tackling that?
I mean, probably just getting all the relationships right was probably the hardest thing. I mean, I want to say that took us, a couple days to finally hammer out, and, I honestly still don't fully trust it.
Yeah, that was definitely the most difficult. There were a number of times where we would implement one thing and it would kill another thing that we had just implemented, and trying to find the balance between all of these relationships was by far the most difficult thing. And we found the balance. We struck it, but we didn't have time to really flesh it out.
All right. Amazing job, Zephyr Firefly. Congratulations. You're done. Next up is Sapphire Berry.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lawrence. I am one of the 3 members of Sapphire Berry. Tao Wen was the Scrum Lord, and Jamie P was our GitHub repo owner. The impetus for our project, Doggy Delights, was something that parallels Gas Buddy. If some of you may have used it or do use it, it's a site where the community can post what they've seen on the gas prices and search in their local area for the best prices to save some cash, especially nowadays. And this year, I made a long-term commitment with a husky. And it's the first dog I've ever had, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I had read all the hype, I would have been intimidated. And he's, aside from my 2 kids who are in college and don't have time for me now, I have this husky, and he's awesome. That being said, I'm really picky about what I eat, and so is my dog. And not only picky, but he's got a pretty sensitive stomach. And I found out the hard way that that's kind of a husky trait. So I started shopping around for specific types of foods based on their ingredients and based on what users had posted online about what's successful and not successful with huskies and their gastrointestinal stuff. And I quickly discovered that that stuff isn't cheap. So I found myself hunting via websites, whether it be Amazon, PetSmart, Petco, or the local shops, trying to find not only if they had what I was looking for in stock, but what their prices were. And so I would sometimes, I mean, the first time I did this, I went 3 different cities, and I think I hit 8 different stores. And I realized there might be a better way. So our intention here was to have a site similar, once again, to Gas Buddy, where users could post, excuse me, the price that they found the dog food at a store, and whether it was in stock. And also the store owners could post price and their inventory. And so the users coming in could see that historically, or basically the most recent update on price as you go. And so we did that. We also allowed the store owners to come in and add their products so users could report on them, because we didn't want to let users come in, dog owners, dog companions, dog pets with dog masters, to edit product details. So see what else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We also included some search by map functionality, introduced that to do the radius search, similar to what you would do when you're finding like a restaurant or a store on Google Maps. It actually utilizes Google Maps. Yeah, that's what we have going on. Dao is going to be sharing her screen. The next slide is our ERD for our database. We ended up with 19 tables, including the join table, lots of POJO entity creation, and we went a little crazy with creating the controllers on the REST side for those. We created more than we ended up using, and so we had plenty to go on, and so we did find ourselves with more than we needed, and up front put a lot more effort than potentially we needed to at first. So I think I'm going to give it to Tao here to talk about doing the user login.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. What's special about our user login is the so it did our Dog Delight websites. In here would be showing, in front page, we're showing the popular store, the highly rated that user rate. And below would be the list of our product on our database. And I will try to register an account here. What's special about this one that I want to show, because we utilize a synchronous validator. So let's say I want to register an account, and then I accidentally using the account or username already taken, for example, and then try to retype password. The message will clear when I have it the second time I type password match, and then email had to have a domain there. After I try to sign in, it will notify me that the username already taken. So I will attaching it to my name. And after that, sorry, I'm trying to see. In here, the username will have, let's say they want to go to see the lead of our store. And they, for example, they want to, for example, they familiar with one of the store and they go in and they can see the detail of all of the product in the stores, or they can leave a comment, great service, for example, is the ratings, so they can have putting the rating there. What I'm trying to show here is if the user want to own a store, they can create their own store. Let's say green food, for example. Food, and then the red, I can just leave it it is. When I click submit, my newly created store there, and I want to, this one is, let me help over. There is a glitch between the local host version versus the online version. So let me see, let me log in into admin so I can show you the function that add product to the store. Let's say we add detail. Oh, it doesn't work on here. Anyway, under the admin can go in detail for this store. It worked differently from, oh, it's still admin here, or not admin here. Go on admin. Log in. Okay. Here you go. So if I want to add a product, and then I want to give it a name, I don't know, pass, and I want to see for the random, I will want to have an image for my product. Submit here. I think the deploy function will not carry the full functionalities of the local host has. But next I will transferring to, I think it's Lawrence or Zemi.
Yep, and that's me, though. If you could click on products.
Okay.
This is the core of what we envisioned with the website and, you know, potentially moving forward an app. This is a list of all products, and we can click on a specific product. Let's pick the first one. And here we have the product and its details, and we actually have ingredients as well. So you see on the right side, we have the latest prices that were recently posted and comments on the product. So we can actually go in and report a new price.
Okay.
And I just saw Spectre's food for $82.99, which was a pretty good sale. And I want to remark and say, I love this stuff, and so does he. We're having some bizarreness with the Amazon deploy. That's supposed to be a drop-down list, but we'll go with store one. And if we submit it, we should see it repopulate back on in real time on the right side. So we can see historic prices, updates, more importantly, the most recent one. We can also go to the right and leave a comment regarding the product or the store, whatever we want to put in there. So we can just call it good experience. And the description was staff was excellent. And then we can leave store one and give that a shot. And then we should see it populate on the right side as well. So we can see those popping up as they come in. We can also go back below either one of the latest price or comment lists and go back to the main product page. You can also navigate to the navigation bar. And we can click on the top button and we can do it, add a new product. And we can add, let's do free range deer. Venison for my dog. And that brand will be Spectre's Favorite. Description's good stuff. We're going to leave the URL blank at the moment. And then before we submit it, we can select our ingredients. So we can grab venison. And then we can go down, and this one I think has pea protein in it. Where is it? Yep, below duck up top. These were added sort of last minute, I apologize. And we can hit submit. We go down to the bottom of the page where all the products are, and we should see it down at the bottom. And if we open that up, we should see the details, including the ingredients we just put in there. There we go. So we can go, we can remove a product as well. Go ahead and click remove. This would be a store owner functionality. At the bottom list, it's gone. And so as the product's in and as users come in, they can update the prices as they see them as they go into the stores. The store owners can also update prices, and they will show as the most recent price update, and then users can continue to elaborate on that as the price changes fluctuate, which they have very much so since the end of COVID and now. And so that is a detailed product and product comment and product report piece. There was a lot of inter-entity manipulation and JSON serialization done by Angular, and this was very interesting. And some of the issues we ran into were really entertaining to actually work out. It was like a gigantic puzzle that we had to solve. So we had a really good time doing this. I think from here I'm going to pass it on to Jamie.
Yes. And Tao, if I could just steal your screen.
Okay.
Can I get the screen share, please?
All right.
Yeah, sorry. I just have everything queued up on my side already. I apologize. All right. So over here we have, this is the landing page you probably saw when Tao first registered an account. This is kind of how it looks once it's all populated, once the user enters all their data. Over here, they have their profile, basic information. If they want, they can change their credentials right here. They can also bring up an actual edit form and change anything about their personal information that they would like. They also have quick links over here, so it's easy to navigate. As they add favorites, it'll populate over here. For the pet, you can see that they can just kind of edit all of their pet information right here. They can select all their breeds, everything is live updates. And then as they add them, we'll just kind of keep stacking them up. So same thing, if they want to add another pet, here's another registration information that they can just put in right there on the same site. And then let's say that, you know, unfortunately they're not with us anymore. They just remove that pet and don't have to think about it anymore. So this is kind of another way to search for products. I know I personally don't like going through lists. I'm a very visual person, so I like to just see what I can get, kind of just all in one easy spot. So they can search in a couple of different ways, just a standard keyword without any location information. When they hit submit, it'll just drop an icon for them. When they click on this, it'll show them the store that it's at, as well as both of the products that match their search. They can also come in and search by zip code, and it will not only highlight the radius, but it'll show them where within that radius of their search those products exist. And then it also filters those search results. And then clicking here will bring you back to Lawrence's page that he demonstrated earlier. And I guess I will go ahead and share the rest of our slides here. So with this, I can't get it to launch, but this is the code that goes behind the custom visualization when you first log into the maps. So this is just setting the initial zoom level, the initial coordinates that we want to set as a center if the user doesn't pick one. And it also has various radius to just throw that radius overlay on there, just give a visual representation of what's happening on the back end. On top of that, we used a geocoder. So we passed it a list of addresses that we pulled. So those products at the bottom of that search page were not actually just products. They were pulled from the product reports and also the store owners as they update the prices or any kind of information that populates those reports at the bottom. So that is the most recent price information across the board, wherever that product is offered for that store. And so we use the geocoder to pull those in and sorted by date so that we only see the best prices and the most recent ones. And then I will pass this to Tal. This is her baby.
So I think I found the cool thing, it validated that Angular able to provide the use when the user do not submit the form, but able to validate certain fields based on how we set up. In here, we just have to simply import the form builder, and it have every field in belong to that form register in that form, and then create a validator at a separate Typescript file. And next slide, you could see in the details of how it testing matching password. It looked very simple there, but it worked as expected, so I'm very glad that it worked now. Yes, that's it.
All right, Lawrence, if you want to lead off.
Lawrence, you're muted.
It's the second time today that did that. I apologize for that. There's a lot of interesting things that happened. We almost wanted to make a gag reel of all the goofy stuff and the inside jokes, but we would probably be the only three that found that amusing. There was a lot of lessons learned for me individually. One was when we designed the table and we created the Pojo entities, we're off to a really good start. And then on my end, I went to create the service implementation and the controllers on top of that for the REST endpoints. And I found that I was on a roll. So I made a ton of endpoints, tested them in Postman, and was ready to implement everything in Angular, and realized I didn't need to do that much because it would have been a lot easier to go with basic CRUD and then build them as I went. So there was a balance, because once I got to the Angular side, there's a balance between letting the REST and the Java pieces in the service implementation handle the entity, the objects, as opposed to letting Angular serialize them into JSON. And we actually ran into issues where we had to take that responsibility from Angular, bring it back into the service implementation, and let it come out of the controller serialized, as opposed to Angular, and TypeScript just trying to grab everything and give us basically a nested nested recursion of, our product has a store, and the store has comments, and the store has products, and it's like the camera looking into the mirror, like, oh, okay, we got to pull back. So that was actually a lot of fun debugging. I know that Rob and Anthony may disagree. The other thing I had a lot of fun with was when I showed, when Thao was running the demo, she showed the ingredient list, and all those checkboxes are dynamic, and that's grabbed with an ng form and an ng model on the Angular side, and it goes to a method on change, and that method brings in the value of the ingredient ID and the product, and it dynamically updates. It either pushes the ingredient into the local ingredient array that's going to be sent when that product is actually created, or it searches if that ingredient is in there if you deselect the checkbox, and it dynamically pulls it out. And so that array is ready to go as the list of ingredients with the product when you actually do create. And that was a lot of fun. So I could go on and on because I love this stuff, but I will let Jamie talk about her stuff.
Yeah, so really mine was really straightforward. I go down rabbit holes if I'm not super focused. And with Angular, it's both a blessing and a curse that it's so easy to manipulate the CSS side of the house. So I got sidetracked before our functionality was built. And so I think my big takeaway from this is, despite how easy it is to just do it right then, focus on getting it actually built first. And requirements text might change by the time you build it anyway. So save styling for last. That was my big thing.
For me, my take, I'm really grateful that our team got on the same page on very first day for about the full functionality of the website. And from there, we frame out the list of endpoints for each controller. So we really have a pretty much a clear vision of what to do on for each team member. So that saved a lot of time on our daily stand-up meeting. And we were able to on same page quickly on daily basis. My lesson learning would be when I stuck on certain thing that I think is so easy, why would it doesn't work? I keep clicking here and there without giving myself a good amount of break. So I think I should be take a break and then come back, zoom out on the flow of code to see where the logic being break. Would be my greatest lesson learned.
And my only complaint would be about my team, and that is that I can't go with them as a package deal to our next stop. So we are Team Sapphire Berry, and this is Doggy Delights. And thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a fabulous weekend.
Unbelievable job. Does anybody else have any questions? Because they did such a phenomenal job. So congratulations. All right, we are next up. I believe the next team is Lunar Stream.
Yep, that's right. Okay, James, can you just let me know you're ready to go?
I'm all good.
Cool. All right, so our team is Lunar Stream, and we are developed an app called Interstellar. It's a dating app, and this is for our final at Skill Distillery. We're just going to go over 4 different primary contents. We're going to do an introduction, demo. We're going to talk about some code that we liked, and then we'll finish up with some final thoughts. All right, so to introduce, my name is Daniel Schulenberg. I was a Scrum leader, and I pretty much handled the morning meetings and the flow of things.
Hello, I'm James Foe. I was the repo owner, and I also was responsible for pushing onto AWS.
And I am Zach Cotter, and I was our database administrator, and my responsibilities for this project were to build a relational database using MySQL. So for our final project, we were broken up into teams of 3, and we were assigned a name from a random generator, hence Lunar Stream. But with that, our group decided to create a dating site. And we actually got our name. Our name was inspired by the actual random generated name, so it worked out. And some of the goals that we had for our site were to have users connect with one another, have users have the ability to like and favorite somebody so they can actually match with someone and they can actually start chatting. And then additionally, users can create mixer events where you can RSVP and mingle with other singles looking for love. And with that, we are going to go into the live demo with James.
All right, I'm going to take you guys over to our website. Can I just get some pluses in the chat that you guys can actually see the website page? Hope that's all good. Looks good. Okay, cool. All right, so we have our landing page right here. You are able to sign up with this or to just log in. Right now, for time purposes, we'll just do a simple login. All right, and it brings us to our search page. We will be back to this in just a little bit, but there's a few other things I want to show you guys first. So here we have our profile. This is my profile card. So it gives you basic information and my profile picture on the front end of it. And then when I hover over it, it'll flip over and it shows the back of my card, a few more images that I posted, as well as just some other information about me. If I click on this button right here, we can see a full profile page with all my different information right here. This button right here will allow us to edit any of the fields that we have input here. We also can see our photos, our interests, and our list of mixers that we are hosting or attending. And that's going to segue us over to our mixer page. All right, so this is our mixer page. It shows you all of the mixers that are on our site. On the front end of a mixer, you have just the name and the day that it's happening. If you hover over it, it'll show you a little bit more details about it. including the address of where it's at. Now, I do not live in North Carolina. So let's say I am living in California. I really only want to see mixers that are there. So I can just search for California. So now we only have 3 options now. But we also notice that they're all in different cities. And you know what? In this scenario, I am living in Los Angeles, so I really just want to see what is happening in Los Angeles. So we have this mixer right here, and I can click on it to see more information about it. Here we have all the details about it, our description, and we have a few buttons. So we have our button right here to edit it, which I can see right now because I'm logged in as an admin, but also the person who created this site can also see it. We also have this button right here, which is kind of a special one, which leads into our next group, I believe, site, which is Perfect Match. So we'll let them explain what's going on there. And then we have this plus button, which adds this mixer to ones that we are attending. So as soon as I click on this, it brings us back to this page here. And now we notice that one that we were just looking at is no longer here because we're not really looking for that. We already found it. We already know we are interested. So where we can find it now is just on our profile page. And it's right here. All right, so we are going to jump back to the main function of a dating site, and that's going to be our search function. Here we see a user's profile card, same thing that we saw on ours. And we can decide whether we want to skip or we can like them. So if I'm not interested, I just skip them and I'm not going to see them again. Right now, I'm not really seeing anybody that I'm all that interested in. So I'm actually going to do a specific search. So right now I'm only looking for women. So here we have our search. And now I actually want to try and get a match. So this might take a little bit because I do have to find somebody who likes me back. Actually, it did not take very long because I already know what's going on. But I want to explain what happens with this button for a second. So whenever we click this button, it goes to the back end. It adds that person to my favorite list. And then it checks in the database if that person that I just favorited also has me favorited. If so, we'll get a pop-up that looks like this. So we have a star. My stars have aligned with I, which is iCarly. This right here is a button that takes us to iCarly's profile page, or we can go to our chat page. First, I'm going to go check iCarly's page because I didn't really look at all that much. Here we have the same functionality we had on our profile page where we can see pictures, we can see what interests they might have, or what mixes they're going to. And it looks like iCarly is online. That is awesome. So we can go and send maybe a chat. So now we are in our chat page. This will show our list of stars. And just for demo purposes, I'm going to go pick on Zach a little bit. And this pulls up our chat box. Up here, this is going to send us right back to Zach's page, just like what we were just at for iCarly. And I can even send a message. So what's up, Zach? We're going to wait just a moment, and hopefully Zach is online and can respond to us. As we wait, I can talk about our block button for a little bit. So we have a block button, and that is kind of a necessity for any site. Oh, look, he responded to us. Glad to hear it, Zach. So sometimes when you are on a dating site, you might match with somebody that you really don't like very much, or that you don't want to hang out with. Sorry, Zach. So I'm gonna block Zach because I don't really need this in my life. I can also give a reason for blocking him. So right now I'm just gonna say blocked. You don't have to give a reason. And then once I click this button, he has disappeared from my matches. I no longer have the ability to talk to him, and he will not show up on our search page. All right. So here we have our settings page. And because I am logged in as an admin, I can update other users and I can make people inactive. This allows our admin to kind of moderate what is going on our site. We also have the functionality to change our email or password here, or our username, I believe. All right, and with that, we're going to go to our last page, which is our contact page. So if you saw any of this stuff and you were pretty interested in seeing what else we've worked on, we have all of our names right here, our roles, and our LinkedIn, GitHubs, and some other projects that we've been working on this whole 4-month period. So with all of that, I'm going to jump over to our slides again, and I'm going to hand it off to Daniel.
Thanks, James. That was a really good demo. I'm sorry Zach got blocked. Maybe next time.
Maybe next.
So if, one more. Okay, so now we're going to jump into our code talk. I'm going to go first, and we're just going to each individually talk about some code that we liked when it came to building this project. So one of the things that we came into was our search criteria, was the different filters that you could add, as you saw with James, whether it was based on state or the city, or based off different profile filters. It was a question of whether or not to do it on the front end data manipulation or on the back end of reaching back in through different kind of queries. This way, you can see here, we decided to do a front end manipulation. So we just have an if statement waterfall to see whether or not they meet those criteria. If they do, we're going to go ahead and push that into the new array. And then that's what you're seeing as a display once you meet that filter. The other one that I kind of liked is you saw on the Mixer page, you only saw specific states and cities that were already part of the Mixer group. I also was able to manipulate those drop-down menus based on the code on the right. And this was just to hopefully prevent having, instead of all the states, you only saw like 5 based on how many were there. And more seriously is all the cities. There's a lot more cities than there are states. So that helped scroll bar and features. And I'll pass it to James.
All right, so I'm talking about 2 quick things here, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with that match function. So as soon as you click on the like button, we go to like a profile. We then actually save whatever profile we were just looking at in a secondary variable. The reason we do that is just so it doesn't kind of mess up stuff with Angular being asynchronous, because we're trying to show you another user as soon as possible. But we also need that information from the last user you were just looking at. So we take the last user you just saw, we add that to your favorite list here, we then do a check, and then in our array that we are showing you on the page, we take that user out. After we do that, we have to check, hey, for the profiles that we're showing you on the page, are there any more? If not, let's refresh that. Let's find out some more users that you might be interested in. Or if there were more, we just keep on randomly selecting them from our pool. The other thing which was pretty interesting, was our use of different buttons. So we had some display buttons and also some toggle buttons. The big difference is with a display button, you click it once and its functionality is kind of done. It does that one thing and that's it. So like here, we see that when you click on the display profile page, it turns 2 things off and it turns on display profile. But if I click that button again, it would do the same thing. It wouldn't change at all. Whereas sometimes we had our edit buttons toggle, which would take this edit button and put it equal to not this edit button. So basically it would be a Boolean going from true to false and back and forth. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Zach.
Okay, so when we were building our database and talking about building this site, my biggest priority for this project was implementing a chat function that actually allowed users to communicate once they matched. So I did a little digging, and I wanted the feature to be an actual live chat that allowed users to send messages and get responses back instantaneously. And my initial approach was to try to set up WebSockets to set up a seamless bidirectional connection between the client and the server, which I was able to establish the connection. However, I had trouble getting the data to actually persist to the database. So I kind of put that one on the back burner. We actually have another class in our Angular right now called Chat that I haven't given up on it. I'm still going to try to come back and get that to work. But I had to get innovative. And in order to do that, I had to discern what the difference between a live chat and just a message board was. And the only real difference I could come up with is that instantaneous feeling. And my workaround for that was to create an interval that is specific to the chat log div. So whenever the chat log gets clicked on, it's auto refreshing every second. I also created a scroll to bottom method that when the chat log is clicked, it scrolls down to the most recent message. Before, you would open up the chat log and it would just show you the oldest one. So it definitely didn't feel like a live chat then. It felt like it was more work for the user. So we added that in there as well. And then additionally, whenever the user navigates away from the page, the interval is cleared. So it's not auto refreshing all data on our site. But yeah, that's how we got the live chat to work. And here is a picture of our database schema. So we have roughly, I think it comes out to 16 tables, 13 that we used, and all of which were essential in actually implementing our app's core functionality. And the tables are connected through many different joins and primary key, foreign key relationships. And on the back end and Spring Tool Suite, we built the back end using REST APIs, which receive all of the HTTP requests from the client and then query the database for whatever it needs. And that will conclude our code talk and demo. So now we are gonna just talk about how this project came to be.
Yeah, so thanks, Zach. And I'm really trying to make sure we stay on to Rob's time limit. I don't want to get that stop clock, but we'll talk for a little bit more. I just wanted to talk about one of the things was the agile work environment. Primarily when all of us being on the Zoom call together, it was nice knowing that in the event I couldn't figure something out, and if I didn't want to waste hours, I could just open up my mic and try to get all eyes to help us out. And that really helped kind of even speed things up. Yeah, so that's what I liked about the agile work environment.
For sure, yeah, I definitely, I know when it came to chat stuff and just definitely styling stuff, I went down several rabbit holes trying to get things to work. And sometimes like, I don't know, you spend hours looking at one piece of code and then all you need is someone else's perspective and a different set of eyes and a different method of thinking. And then boom, everything comes to fruition. So I definitely agree with that. As far as stretch goals, I think the main stretch goal that you could see on our database that we didn't get to was a questionnaire that we initially wanted when a user registers an account, that a questionnaire would come up and each question on the questionnaire would be tied to a category or a preference. And based on the user's answers on that questionnaire, they would be displayed a list that met those category criteria. We didn't get to that, maybe a future project or if any of us work on this later on, but yeah, that was, I think, the only stretch goal other than maybe some styling things that we didn't get to.
I'm going to jump in to talk about one of my biggest takeaways from this. I found out something about myself just personally is I like to have a clear like objectives. So I like to know like, okay, we need to do this, 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 this. I want like a laundry list of what we need to fix. And I found out that I definitely love Trello for that. Our Trello board had a bunch of different colors by the end of it because I was like, we had like every page and we're just saying like, okay, we need to do this much stuff on this page today. We need to do this stuff on this page today. And then as we were going through it, I was like, are we done with that? Yeah, okay, it's green now. Or, okay, well, we kind of have it working, so it's gonna be yellow. I've never been that like type A until this project, but it was really kind of cool to see how much progress we were making and to really have that roadmap laid out for us. Are we done with this page? Am I good to go to questions?
Yep, I think we're good for questions if anyone has them.
Does a really nice job. And
Hey, this is oh, so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I already asked one earlier, so whoever that was, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Justin. I was part of SD27. I had a question regarding the chat functionality that you guys had. So for you, Zach, you said you spent a lot of time like working on a live chat function.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did you decide to like scrap away from the live chat and then go with the implementation that you have now? At like what point did you decide, all right, I gotta get away from this and then implement something that might work?
So I don't know if I ever really got away from it. It's still something that's like, I have an itch for it. I mean, there's a huge possibility that I go back to that tonight, but I think it was the first weekend that we had during this project. I spent the majority of the weekend, long nights, trying various different things to actually get the data to persist. And come Monday morning, it still wasn't good to go. So I wanted to have a backup live chat that we could actually show off. So it's not forgotten, but that was the time frame that I was like, okay, I gotta start being realistic and get something that's going to work so I can start, helping out with the rest of the project.
Nice job. Thank you.
Hey, I have a question. This is Paul from DSoft, and I have Dave and Jeff with me as well. I noticed at one point you were showing passwords, but the passwords were encrypted, and I was impressed. And the question is, what did you use to encrypt those passwords? And was that easy or difficult, or how did that go?
I think, James, could you answer that one?
Yeah, I definitely can. So we ended up encrypting the passwords on the back end before we saved the profile. So back in STS, we were using the REST post methods. So we ended up taking in whatever the user gave us, doing, I believe it was like encoder or something like that. I don't remember the exact verbatim of the code for it, but we essentially just took their string, said, encode this for us so it's private, and then saved that for it. It's funny because at one point when we were trying to do updates for it, we came into that issue of like we were double encrypting the code by accident, or the password by accident. And we were like, why did our password change? What's happening? It was that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And overall, fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hey guys, Lucas here with SD32. Just want to say great job that you had there. I always like seeing the live chat feature, so it's nice when someone attempts that. This is kind of a question that anyone could answer, but just out of curiosity, out of the whole program, you spent a lot of time doing back end, and then you kind of got thrown into the front end with the Angular. What did you guys find to be the most difficult? Was it back end logic, or was it still Angular because it was so fresh?
I think I'll go ahead and jump off, and then if you guys want to talk as well. One of the biggest things is JSON ignoring whenever you made those tables, especially when it comes to self joins. We also were getting some recursor issues that we weren't used to with the previous projects. So that was probably the challenging thing in the back end. But once we got that pretty solid, obviously Angular was definitely difficult because I think we've only had 2 chances to really work with it. Once I found like it was more almost STS built or based, where it was that organizational, that's kind of what made it click for me. And it's, I don't know, I'm kind of liking Angular. Maybe I'm one of the out ones, but I'm enjoying working with it. I don't know if the other two have anything else they want to say.
Yeah, I for me, I definitely think Angular was where I felt the most challenge. And it's like Daniel said, just because it's all very, very fresh. I haven't sworn it off. I think I just need to get more hands-on with it, and maybe probably watch a lot of YouTube videos, take a few Udemy courses. But I think for me right now, it's just understanding how TypeScript, like what the rules in TypeScript are, because like Daniel said, we've only had like a minimal exposure to it. So definitely a love-hate with Angular. Backend, I feel like we've had enough experience with it at this point to where I felt pretty comfortable with all the backend logic. So yeah, definitely Angular stuff.
And I would basically agree with both of you two. I think for me, it was just a little confusing going from JavaScript to TypeScript. And like, there was definitely some things I was like, okay, I kind of know how to do that in JavaScript, but when it's using Angular and we're using TypeScript, and I don't know how that meshes together. So it's really just kind of the nuances of going from one language to another and seeing how they blend together, and not just getting frustrated that, oh, I know how to do this in one and not the other, but making them work together.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear, guys. Good job.
Okay, if that's it, I just want to say thanks again. And for our fellow students and staff, we really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone else for coming out here. And we look forward for the next challenges. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Awesome job, Lunar Stream. Amazing. Congratulations. You are all done. Next up is Mystic Sparkle.
Thanks, Brianna. Let me just get everything set up here real quick. Okay, so thank you to everybody for coming out today, taking time out of your day to be with us as we get to present our project, our labor of love for the last 10 days or so, Mentor Me. So we'll kick off with introductions.
Hello, my name's Austin. I was the Scrum Master.
My name is Chad, and I was the repo owner.
And Ken, database administrator. So quick overview of what we'll be going over. We'll give you a demonstration of our application, talk about some of the code, some of the remaining functionality, give you a quick glimpse of the README and some stopping points there, and go over a quick recap. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chad.
Thanks, Ken. So as most of you know, breaking into the software industry can be difficult, especially when you haven't built a network. Our application, Mentor Me, solves this problem by allowing mentees to engage with a mentor about a bootcamp they may be interested in attending. So now we'll give you a tour of our site. Ken, if you could for me, please click on the Skill Distillery logo. So here you can see a brief description about Skill Distillery, as well as what our users have to say about the program. You can also click on Skill Distillery's name, which will direct you to their website. And Ken, if you could, please click the back button, and we'll go back to the home page. So on our homepage, you can also see that there's a search bar. Here you can search for a bootcamp by keywords such as Java or the name of the bootcamp itself. And as you can see, Ken searched with the keyword of Java, and listed below are the bootcamps that offer Java as their core language. So now, Ken, could you please just log in as a mentee? So as you can see, we're logged in on the account page here. And you've got your username at the top, the profile image, as well as a badge that shows that they are either a mentee or a mentor. Below is a little bit about the user, as well as who is currently following them and who they are following. And on the right, we have an update account button where you can update any account information that you may choose. And you can also delete the account there. So Ken, if you could please select Mentor Me in the top left corner. So this brings us to the user's feed page, where they can see all posts made by other Mentor Me mentors and mentees. From here, a user can choose to create a comment on a post. And we can also visit a mentor's account from this page, where we can choose to follow them for future updates. So on the mentor's account page, we have an About Me section, the bootcamp that they attended, as well as a review of that bootcamp written by the mentor themselves. We also have a section for their advice that they may have for any mentees that are looking to attend, as well as a list of tools they used while they attended the bootcamp with prospective links to those tools. And below is a list of their current followers, as well as a list of who they are following. So finally, we have a contact page, which includes photos of the development team, as well as links to our respective LinkedIn profiles. And with that, Ken, could you please log out and then log back in as an admin? So as an admin, we have the ability to delete users' posts or comments, as Ken will demonstrate now. So as you can see, this comment was written by Bootcamp Dropout. Boot camps are a scam. He hated boot camp. He couldn't focus, got behind, and ended up dropping out. So we'll go ahead and delete that post as it doesn't offer any value to our mentors or mentees. We've got Poker Star as well. He's asking if he can play poker while in class. We're going to go ahead and delete that since it doesn't offer any value as well. And with that, we'll go ahead and pass off to Austin, who's going to talk about our code.
Thanks, Chad. So our main goal in this project was to get a community posting and replying with each other. This piece of code grabs all the posts made in our database and sorts them by their created date, so the newest post will appear at the top of the page. Then it gets all that post replies to be displayed with it on the site. We went down a bit of a rabbit hole and learned a lot about Angular from YouTube videos and independent research to get this functioning a certain way, but it ended up not working out with how we had other things set up in our application. So we decided to scrap a lot of the unfamiliar code and go with a route that ended up working perfectly. This piece is adding and removing a follower to a list of followers that each user has. It was a small feature that I feel adds a much larger community aspect to the site. Due to some time boxing, we couldn't, but in the future, I would like to add something like notifications. So when someone you are following posts, you can be sure to check it out. And with this, we also quickly realized how important detailed naming conventions in the code is because of how easy it is to get lost in who is following who or who is unfollowing who. So we had a total of 10 days to complete this project, and we set our functionality time box at 2.5 days before presentation. That was pretty much like our line in the sand saying, wrap up all the features and start working on styling. One of the stretch goals we ultimately had to drop was instant messaging between two users and systems for users to request another bootcamp to be added on the site if theirs is not listed. Now I'll turn it over to Ken to give an overview of our README.
All right, thank you, Austin. All right, so we wanted to spend just a little bit of time on our README here because we know it's a stopping point for potential employers to kind of get more of the backstory behind our code. So we won't dwell on any particular location except for a few here. You can just see how we went about trying to grab users' attention, make sure that they knew who we were, creating a link to the website and ways that you can log in, giving a description of really the methodology or the intent behind the course itself. I want to stop at methodology a little bit, and this is where we talk about how it is that we were able to get this application up on its feet in the short amount of time that we had using Angular, which is still new, and it's teamwork, you know, full stop right there, just like the line says. And it was using those things of the agile methodologies, the planning, the executing, the evaluating. Really, all of those aspects kept us on point, specifically in executing. Our communication was always on point. We were always together in the Zoom room. If somebody was going to do something that required everybody else's input, that would happen. If there was an event where swarming had to occur, we would pause what we were doing and all look at the same code and try to figure it out. Pair programming, just absolutely common throughout the entire project. So the agile methodologies really proved to be critical to our success. And talking about some of the lessons learned here on our README, I want to go ahead and open it back up to the team to kind of go through some of the things that this exercise really taught them.
So the biggest lesson I learned is proper planning leads to a smoother coding process. Plan something like what components and services should do what, keep track of REST endpoints, and plan what controllers you need to accomplish these goals. Controllers really start to stack up in the end. And always communicate with your team and have a clear and concise goal to work towards.
All right, Chad, what did you have as far as your biggest takeaway for this team project?
Yes, I think Ken kind of touched on it already a little bit. Teamwork is essential to success. Everyone on our team put their minds together to overcome issues and solve any problems that we may have had. And constant communication helped us succeed as a team and stay on top of any of those issues that we did have. And that saved us valuable time, troubleshooting, and allowed us to really hit all of our goals for the most part. And we checked our egos at the door, kind of maintained that communication throughout. Anytime someone disagreed with something, we kind of came together as a team and worked it out instead of arguing and so on. So that's something that was really valuable to us, especially with our time hacks that we implemented.
Yeah, absolutely. Checking the ego at the door and everything being a consensus. It was wonderful to work as a member of this team. It truly was. I really appreciated the aspect of Angular, getting to dive into it and use it at another level than what we ever have before, and getting the light bulb to turn on of all the different components, their related services, and then getting the services talking to the controllers on the back end, and having that light bulb moment. Okay, now I get it. I see the layers clearly when you take it an application and make it this complex to make sure that everything is actually talking to each other. So I really did enjoy that. Not on the tech side, but more on the teamwork side, as a lot of jobs are remote, and we've, of course, have been doing this remotely for the past 16 weeks. It's a skill that I want to continue to develop, of course, and that is when you have 3 people in a Zoom room and you're all trying to contribute. Oh, I've got this idea. Hey, what about this? What about that? It's just not stepping on the other person as they're talking, catching those cues, like, okay, now I can jump in without stepping on somebody else. A minor thing, sure, but it's an art, I believe, that demands practice. So just quickly glossing over the rest of this README, we do give our database schema here, and as Austin had touched on, some aspects that we didn't actually get to implement was this table, yellow table here in the 6 o'clock position for the instant messaging, but for another time perhaps. And if anybody's interested, we give the guidance on how to test our application using Postman, giving some example URIs. We give a list of the technologies, and then we finish off with a couple of screen images to kind of capture some of the journey. Trello, absolutely critical for making sure that we knew what comes next and keeping us on point of where we were in the project, making sure that we weren't dwelling too long on one thing over another. Seeing those cards move really gives you that perspective of where you are and if you're spending too much time on any one thing. And as you saw before, those code snippets. And then finally, I think this is probably mostly just astounding to us, is the amount of components. I'm sure that the veterans out there, the coding veterans, would look at this and be like, oh, that's nothing. But to us, creating an application with this many components was definitely eye-popping for us. So it was neat to be able to use them all, understand how they're talking and communicating with their services, and getting to that back end and giving the user the presentation on the front end on the screen. So we'll transition away from the README real quick and go to the recap. So again, thanks for being with us today. We really appreciate the time that you've taken away from your normal life to be here with us as we give this demonstration. So we gave you a walkthrough of the application. I got to see some of the code and hear some of the stories behind that code, some of the things that remain to be implemented, and of course, glossing over that README. So with that said, are there any questions for myself or the rest of the team?
Good job, guys. Lucas here again. Figured I'd ask one thing because I had an annoyance with this when I was in this class. How did you guys feel about on the final app when it came down to the CSS, really styling and kind of making it look pretty? Is that something that you guys you were comfortable with, or was it more of a challenge? Because for me, it was definitely a challenge.
I could touch on that. We really didn't want to focus too much on it. Like, we wanted to spend a lot more time making sure our functionality was working, and then CSS kind of came second. I think D always says we're web developers, not web designers. So some basic CSS is really all we did and tried to do with this, and focus more on the code itself from the back end side, as well as the Angular front end stuff. But as far as styling goes, I know I wasn't a focus of mine, and I don't know that it was for the rest of the team either, but they could speak on that.
The time boxing bit, we kept ourselves away from the CSS because we were so worried about the core functionality and making sure that we had the CRUD, that the things that we needed to work were truly working, and that we weren't trying to cover things up necessarily. So because of the time boxing, we kept ourselves away from the CSS for better or for worse until we had really gotten it. There's a couple things that we did touch on with Bootstrap and CSS prior to that, but it wasn't a focus area. And so I think the time boxing methodology really kept it concise for us as to when we started to go down that rabbit hole. To your question, yeah, CSS is frustrating, trying to get those padding, those margins and everything to work out from one page to the next. It definitely is a challenge when you're still relatively new and facing those challenges. But it was great taking them on and getting that experience for sure. I don't know, Austin, if you wanted to touch on that at all.
I think you guys hit it. I mean, we spent a lot of time struggling with just like the margins and the padding on the CSS. I think we were just mostly focused on getting the functionality done. And then as long as we threw a background on just to keep away from like the plain white background, then we were happy with it.
I remember adding the shadow effect to the message boxes was like a fun moment for us. I mean, super minor, but it was neat to see it happen. All right, not hearing any other questions. Again, thank you for y'all's time.
Awesome, 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 awesome job. Congratulations. Mystic Sparkle, you are done. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have Midnight Blossom.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So this is Midnight Blossom, and my name is Jordy. I was the repo owner. Steph was our Scrum Master, and Diego was our DBA. For our application, it's called Perfect Date, and it's the perfect solution for couples who need any ideas or new ideas for any upcoming dates. It also helps our members post their ideas and interact with other users. Our members are able to interact with each other using our blog feature, and they're able to personalize their user profile, and they're also able to create and to review date night ideas. So going on to our application, it takes you to our homepage. And once you're logged out and you initially see this homepage, you can either sign in, you can sign up, or you can continue navigating our website through the guest. So if you click on the continue as guest, it'll take you to a categories page, which separates all the date night ideas into a category. So if we were looking for something that was a little more romantic, we would click on the romantic button, and it would show us a list of different ideas. And if you were interested in one of them, you would click that idea, and it would give you an image and a little more detail over the idea of this date night. You can go ahead and scroll up and head over to the nav bar and click date night ideas. And it'll show you an actual list of images of different ideas. And if you were a little more interested on people's point of view on that exact location, you can click on the image we had just previewed. And it'll give you reviews of people who had gone to that date or who had tried that date and what they thought. And at the top, you can see an overall rating as well. As a non-logged in user, you can go into blog at the top, and you can see that other users have posted blogs and are asking for suggestions, advice. However, you can't reply until you become a member. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Diego, and he's going to show us how to sign up and sign in.
Thank you. So I'm just going to return back to the homepage, and you can see our 3 buttons in here. We already did the continuous guest. So if you just had to register, you will come in here, fill out the form. I'm not going to register because we already have an account. So I'm just going to go back home, sign in as a regular user. And it brings us back to the homepage. You can see the buttons disappeared, and now we have several more buttons up top. So I'm just going to go to the user's profile. In the user's profile, you can see the personal details, the user. And let's say that now you want to change your last name. So you can just edit that info real quick. And update this information. And you can see that it reflects immediately. We can also see a list of blog posts that this user has made. So if you click here, it will display a table of when they did it and the title. And if they just click on it again, it'll display details about more about that post. And then now that we are logged in, our website unlocks more features, and Steph is going to walk you through some of those features that our website has now as a regular registered user.
Sure. Thank you, Diego. If you go back over to Date Night Ideas, we can go back over here. Now that we're logged in, we can actually add a date. And then if you click on the restaurant that you had been on before, sorry. And then in through here, you can actually review a date. You see a button is there now that you're a logged in user, and you can fill that out and post your rating. The other function that we have as a logged in user is our blog. So if you want to go back over to the blog, and then you can see that we now have a view thread button. If you click on that, now you can see everybody who's been replying to this blog, and you can actually make a reply at the bottom. And that'll actually, yeah, whatever you want to say. And submit. And then that will come right up. And then, well, as a logged in user, there's a little bit more functionality as an admin. So we're going to go ahead and log out as a regular user. And we're going to log in as an admin. And then go back to Date Night Ideas. And click on that. That's actually click on the sunset bar down there. We created that earlier. And if we want to go over to, now you can see there's 2 more buttons. There's an edit the date night and a delete. Now we didn't want users to be able to edit a date night because one of our stretch goals is in the future to have a wish list. So if you had a bunch of people who had put a date night on their wish list of places they wanted to go, and then a user went in and changed it to a completely different date night, we didn't want that functionality. So only an admin can edit the date and only an admin can delete it. So if someone put something in here that was inappropriate or the place had closed down, you can go ahead and delete that, Diego. And then once we go back to the list, you can see the sunset bar is gone. All right. And then for one other thing at the very bottom of our page, if you're still looking for that some special someone you don't have to go on a perfect date with, you can go ahead and click that, and that'll link you over to interstellar dating. So I'm going to pass this back to Diego for an overview of our schema.
This is just a quick overview of our schema. Everything was centered pretty much around the user and a date night. And these are the relationships that we use to guide us through our coding process and make our application successful in doing all those CRUD operations. Now I'm going to pass it on back to Steph, where she was a Scrum Master, and she will talk about our how our Scrum was done.
Yeah, so we relied heavily on Trello. We used the functionality of the colors to color code for who was working on what. That way, nobody was stepping on anybody else's toes. We're not working in the same files, and we're not going to have merge conflicts, hopefully. And then we have our stretch goals off to the side. We're going to go talk about that, but there was a lot of things going back and forth between stretch goals coming back into play and then going back in. So we kind of had, you know, a lot of that going on. And then at the bottom, you can see our GitHub repo timeline, where we made sure that all of our branches that we were using were named appropriately, so that if we ever did have a merge conflict, we could go back to that branch and take a look at what was going on there. And then I'm going to pass this off to Jordy, who's going to go over a coding challenge.
So right here is an image of a code snippet, just to preview one of our challenging moments. So what we were trying to do here, or what we did here, was populate a thread with replies to a blog and then be able to process new replies. And another code snippet of a challenging moment is on the next slide.
Yeah, so this was a challenge because this was in our database. Review has a foreign key with date night. So if you see in the middle of the page, there's selected.name, that selected is actually a date night. But what we wanted to do was we wanted to attach a review to that date night. And we also wanted a review rating so that we could average that out on the TS side. And so what we ended up having to do was a lot of TS and HTML to make sure that the date night was actually connected with the review and then connected through with the rating. So that was another one of our challenges. And then Diego is going to talk to us about our stretch goals.
So these are some of the ideas that we want to implement in the future. We want to do a Google Maps API so that every date night has a Google Maps implementation, and it gives you directions if you wanted to go to that place. We also want to display our ratings as stars, and we want to search dates by location. Again, trying to use that Google Map API to help you find date nights in your area. We want to further develop a wish list. And another idea that we have is we want to have a date night discussion so that you don't necessarily have to review the date night, but you can have a conversation about the date night, ask specific questions about it. And that way you will have a more dynamic and user-friendly front end. We also want to add more user profile functionality so that once a user logs into their profile, they can view and edit their own reviews or blog posts from the user profile. And those are stretch goals, and that comes to the conclusion of our presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Nice job. I like that you brought up Git and dealing with some of that stuff. And I wanted to know maybe if you had any challenges with that or tricky situations, and also if you were just using the Git command line versus if you're using like Git Kraken or something, because I really just want to steal your cool branch diagram and know how you made that.
So Steph and Jordy were definitely, I feel like they were the ones teaching me a lot about the Git branching and all of that. So I did learn a lot in the project, and I bet they can evaluate. They can further explain how it worked. But yeah, we definitely had some times where we had overlapping code, and it's a lot easier to fix with VS Code. I'm glad that whenever we did have conflicts, it was on VS Code, and it's easier to just pull them up and see where we actually have those conflicts, and we're able to fix them rather quickly.
Yeah, I agree. The merge conflicts that we did have were mostly on the front end, and it was a lot easier to fix in VS Code. And I really feel like our team worked very well together to fix the problem. I didn't ever feel like I I was on my own to fix something, and I hope that the rest of the team didn't feel that way either. So I feel like everybody just kind of huddled if there was a problem, and then we all just really worked well together.
Mhm.
Definitely, I have to touch on that as well. I think that communication was key, and us being able to tell each other, what we're doing, have the Trello board working, along with, working with the schema. So the schema really helped us divide what tables we were going to work on, and just communicating to each other, letting each other know where we were at, checking in once in a while. And huddling on things that we felt like were a little more difficult, but definitely the branching helped a lot. We were able to work without worrying about any merge conflicts. And as soon as we were going to branch everything into the main branch, we would let each other know what was going to happen and when to pull, so nobody was behind.
Cool.
Any other questions? All right.
Well, thank
Awesome job.
Great job.
Midnight Blossom, amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now that we are officially SD34, you are completely done with final projects. And the next stop on your train to success is graduation. And I cannot believe that you all have done it, and your projects were unbelievable. Like, I mean, top tier. You all did such an amazing job. And so please soak in this moment. Take some time to be with your loved ones and enjoy your Friday that you probably haven't had in weeks, maybe even months. So enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend. The celebration will continue. We're so proud of you. And so we're going to end the presentations and officially stop the recording. But we're going to open up and keep the room open for you all.
I do have a couple of quick questions just for the benefit of SD35 was too busy to be here today, but we're going to send him the video. Hey, Tony, good to see you. So just for perspective and comparison, I'm going to use the Zoom chat because I think that will go along in the recording as well. With a minus sign if you had none and plus signs otherwise, what was your level of coding experience and background before you came to SD?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question.
0, absolutely nothing.
Or feel free to. A couple of you had a little bit of background. I do remember that, but the vast majority of you started the pre-work at 0.
And it's important. It's important to know that because there's a couple of future members of SD on the Zoom today. So I'm sure they're nervous seeing what you just accomplished and saying like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So it really does provide a point of reference for sure.
And that was my next question. Take your week 1 self of Skill Distillery and suppose they had just watched your presentation. What do you think they would say about what they saw? Mind blown. Yeah, no way I'll ever be able to, yeah, who's that guy? Exactly. So what advice would you give to someone who is in week 1 or week 2? Maybe they just struggled with make change. Remember make change? Remember how hard make change was? Yeah. What advice would you give? And feel free to unmute and speak up because this is recorded. And so that will be helpful.
We
where
prefer
they're
your voice.
Week 2, week 3, and they're wondering if they have completely made the wrong turn and so on. And I'd love to hear you speak on that actually.
Yeah, Rob, I'll take a first stab at that.
Sure.
You are going to hear trust the process quite a bit, but something beyond that a little bit. For myself, what I learned is that the first couple of projects, I had this great idea, and I thought, oh man, it would be so cool if I did this, and it was something that I really wanted to do a great job on it, but the problem was is that it was complicated, and I wasn't taking the simple approach. I heard what the instructors were saying with keeping things simple, but I really felt like I wanted to go hard after the project, and it bit me a couple of times. So with these projects, try to keep the scope such that it's not too complicated. It's there to teach you the lessons of the tech for that weekend. So try to keep things in scope, try to keep things simple as you're learning brand new stuff. And I think that'll really help you not get overwhelmed otherwise by a project that you're trying to make perfect in just a weekend.
I'll go.
I'd like to, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that you're constantly learning. So regardless of whether you're coming into SD for the first day or you're 10 years into your career, you're always going to be learning, and you're never going to know everything there is to know about programming. So just stick to the basics and what they teach you here, and the rest of it's just syntax. You know, you can learn any language with syntax, but just understand the logic and what it is that you're doing, not how to do it. Is what I would say.
Thanks, Shane, and really good to see you, by the way. Hope all's well.
Good to see you too, Rob.
Yeah, I would say it's okay to want to cry after quizzes. As long as you put forth the effort and the instructors can see that you're doing your best, and you know you're doing your best, you probably don't have anything to worry about, because there were a few quizzes that I cried after, and I'm here today, you know, in my personal opinion, with the best project. But you know, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel overwhelmed. It's inevitable. I think even some of the people that came into this cohort with experience in coding probably felt overwhelmed at one time or another. I'd also say for future cohorts, like, start on your homework Friday night so that you are at a place where you simply need help on Saturday morning. So, and get that TA help, because that is just like so important. There were a few times where I started my project on Saturday morning and, you know, tried to get TA help, and by the time I got to a point where I needed help, it was almost the end of the TA time. So I think it's super important to get to a stopping point on Friday before the TAs can help you, so you can maximize your time with the TAs for sure.
That's amazing advice for sure.
I'm going to piggyback on a little bit of what Tiala was saying. Yes, it will be overwhelming for sure. Make sure you're taking care of yourself as well. Like I started definitely like being my best version of myself through this course, because I was just like, I need to get outside. I need to be not at a computer right now and take like an hour at the gym or something. Take that time for yourself for sure. Definitely start projects early. I know Rob and Dee would yell at me because I would always want to start at like Thursday, or like I've even started some of them on Wednesday and then, you know, have to redo the whole thing. But at least I had like an idea of how things were working at that point. So when TA hours did come, I came prepared. And I would also just say, make TA time part of your schedule. It was never, I don't know, for me at least, it was never optional. Even if I felt like I'm pretty solid on this, I was like, no. On Saturdays from what it was, like 10 to 2 Mountain Time, you are there, you are sitting down, you are working on your project. Honestly, start working on it beforehand, because you're gonna need help with something.
I was gonna say you guys aren't alone out there, and if you don't have a Discord, get one because you guys are all going through the exact same thing, and you guys can live in frustration together. That's all I gotta say.
I guess something I would have liked to learned was to kind of try to experiment with your learning styles because everybody learns differently. So try to experiment at first. How is it that you're going to learn? And ask questions when you need help. There was points where I would be embarrassed to ask for help, and I'll just sit there. And if you're just gonna sit there, like don't just sit there, like go back and read the material, like do something productive in the meantime. But if somebody else would have asked the same question that I was curious about, and that would really get me out of trouble. So really do ask questions because I guarantee you somebody else is stuck on the same thing and you're gonna be helping everyone else. And you won't be stuck there. You would actually be learning in class.
One of the principles in Shaolin Kung Fu is you have to taste the bitter to enjoy the sweet, and time and effort pay off, and that applies to this course without a doubt.
For me, I would say, don't be afraid to go outside your comfort zone with some things. For me, where I learned the most was just, sitting there looking at my project saying, what happens if I do this? Or, is there a way for me to accomplish something in a different way? And, it's kind of just going through that. And, a lot of the times I broke things, but anything you break, you can undo. So don't be too afraid to, challenge yourself a little bit. Don't go too far down that rabbit hole, because I've done that a couple times and lost too many hours or something that didn't work. But I learned the most, me personally, I learned the most by taking something, breaking it. And, now I know that that doesn't work, or sometimes you surprise yourself and something actually does.
Yeah, I second that.
And get comfortable with Googling. Like, I was not comfortable with Googling any of this stuff in the beginning, but like, it is so important. Well, you'll be Google masters by the end of the class anyway, but if you start early, it'll be worth it.
Definitely Google, and definitely recognizing the rabbit holes when you're starting to fall in it. That's huge, in my opinion.
Biggest thing I'd say is don't be afraid to speak up. Don't just sit there and, if you got questions, ask Rob, ask everyone, interrupt them while they're talking if you have to, because it's a fast-paced course. I think everyone can say that. So speak up, say something, and ask for help when you need it.
I agree. I think that if you're at a point and you're sitting there in class and you feel like you're not typing fast enough, you're falling behind, it's okay to ask for help and ask them to slow down just a bit, because you will use it for reference, and you can reread it, you can absorb it a little better. And like Tiara said, Google is going to come in hand too. Don't feel like you're cheating either just by Googling something. You're not. I think everybody starts to Google at some point in this career.
And I'm just going to read off some of the ones in chat in case the chat doesn't sync up with the recording before people started talking. So there's a trust the process as advice, trust the process again. If you feel like you're drowning, that's normal. Stick it out, continue to push, trust the process, never lose focus on your end goal, which you are approaching right now, by the way. Geez, graduation Tuesday and people asking for job references and so on. Amazing. Patience is key. Someone mentioned this was the best decision my friend and I who attended the previous cohort made. So I think that was all the ones, but feel free to continue speaking up.
I'm going to pop up, but I wanted to just say congratulations again to SD34. You all blew my mind. And so I'm sure you blew everybody's mind on the call today. Job well done, and we will see you soon.
All right, thank you, Brianna. By the way, I did want to say that you all surprised me. So for the last 10 days, we've been in and out of your rooms helping you with specific things, and seeing it all together there, I didn't recognize some of your sites when I saw the whole picture. So amazing job. I can't believe that I keep saying, and it's true every time, that these get better every single time. So great work. Very proud of you.
This is Bruce. I was going to jump in just as somebody calls me here. I was going to jump in and say, too, I was looking just at the database ETR diagrams and going, wow, these are more elaborate than I've seen in a long time. I am curious, you can maybe just put it into chat. The one thing I wanted to say is, yes, it was amazing. But if there's one thing that you learned about yourself in this process, I am curious if there's anything you learned about yourself. You can unmute or just put it in chat, but that's just my question.
Especially on this project, I learned to trust my teammates more. I'm always kind of I just want to make sure everything gets done, and I'm kind of take it all in and try to take it all on myself. And this project especially was really just trust your teammates, and I'll work on the parts that you're working on, and everything will be okay.
No, that's good, because I do know the teamwork aspect is going to be very important. So that's good to hear.
For me, I'd say communicating is crucial to succeeding. Like me and my team, we talked basically every step of the way. We were always talking to each other, where we are, what we're doing, what we're touching. And I don't think we had a single merge conflict the entire project, which I'm very happy about. And yeah, just so everybody's on the same page. Like, I don't even think we coded our first day. We sat down, we talked about what we wanted our site to be. Like, we say what this thing is and what does that mean to each of us, so we all know what we're going towards and we're not heading in 4 different directions.
No, excellent. And then keep in mind too, all of you are doing it remotely, which makes it a little bit more challenging sometimes.
Some of the other answers in the chat: being flexible will go far. The more relaxed you are, the more you will absorb. Recognizing my team's strengths, and we said that. Learn to trust that I'm actually learning through this journey. Yeah, so if it just feels like day after day of futile frustration, well, you are in fact learning. You're puzzled every day and you're resolving. So dreaming about code is normal. Yes. Once we get you dreaming about code, you're one of us. One of us.
I also think for all of you, you may have experienced you can do more than you think you could have done on the beginnings, kind of back to what Rob was asking earlier. So yes, put any other ones in chat, but congratulations. I am so impressed by what everybody has done here. All right, back to you, Rob.
I am done. I am going to actually stop the recording now. So once again, huge, everybody just unmute, put on video, huge round of internet applause from each other. Great job, everybody. Just amazing what you were able to do. Great to see your faces, hear your voices. And yeah, and then I will go ahead and stop recording. We'll keep the Zoom open for just a little while longer.